All right, Feedback Friday Part 2. I'm not going to sing the song again because, that's going to get really annoying. This is, as promised, the video about the response to the video about there are bikini girls in Mortal Kombat after all. And it was definitely the most commented on video of the week by far. It wasn't the most commented. It was the most watched by far. That's different. But it was, as I expected, more contentious than usual with these videos because it was in isolation. It was shorter and more open to interpretation. Now, I'm not going to deal with the haters because there's no point. You guys who watch this show regularly should not be subjected to be spectators in a battle between people who will not watch this content regularly. I make my content predominantly for regulars. If a video goes viral and I pick up a few extra people, awesome. But instead, I want to extrapolate on the idea of what's respectful towards women and what is considered appropriate at any given time in society. Now, some interesting things happened since I made that video. Some former NetherRealm Studios developers have spoken out on Twitter about the poor treatment, the excessive crunches, and the marginalization of women that has gone on at NetherRealm Studios. Now, these developers have asked to not be identified in any pieces on the subject, that they not be identified without permission. So I am respecting that. And I'm not going to go into detail about that because they specifically said not to. And I personally believe, my particular belief in terms of journalistic ethics where video games are specifically affected, is that there is no public right to know regarding this stuff. So I proceed on a first do no harm principle. It's different if you're covering politics. It's different if you're covering anything where taxpayer dollars are spent. Now, one could argue up here in Canada, video game development's heavily taxpayer subsidized, but you know what I mean. Globally, like especially in America, it's a for-profit business. There's really no public right to know. Some people would argue that the minute you put something on Twitter that is public information, no one has to contact you for comment. That has happened to me tons of times. People just use my tweets, use my videos. I accept it. It's part of what happens. I don't play that game because I'm old school, and I believe that if you burn someone that way once, they don't talk to you again. So what I am going to do is I'm going to reach out to this whistleblower, see if they are willing to say more, perhaps on background. But until that happens, I'm not going to further talk about this in this space. What I am going to do is show you this thing that I found purely accidentally. My husband actually found it when he was unpacking boxes in his office, but it's clearly mine because it's an original Xbox game. It's a game from 2004. I'm a big pinball nerd. People who have watched this channel for a while probably know that. The reason I, up until recently worshipped Ed Boon is because, not just because of Mortal Kombat, because he was a pinball developer and he's the voice of a pinball game, I believe it's called Funhouse. But yeah, Midway designed pinball games before they moved into video games. But this is a game from 2004. I don't know if you can see. Pure pinball. I don't know if you can see what the ladies are wearing or not wearing. Again, it's copyright 2004. XS Games. Now, you'll notice I'm deliberately covering up the ESRB rating on this game because I want you guys to try to guess what the ESRB rating on this game from 2004 was. I'll give you a minute. Look, I'll describe. You've got multiple women in various stages of showing skin. One woman is holding a sword in a fairly phallic way. Another woman is holding a gun in a similar fashion. Another woman apparently forgot to zip up her motorcycle gear. And another woman is dressed like a cowboy or cowgirl, but nobody goes riding in pants like that. And I know this because I've gone riding and, you know, got the chafing on the inner thighs because I was an inexperienced rider. And so I know this. Nothing wrong with sexy cowgirl, just pointing this out. And what does any of this have to do with pinball? All right. So you've been given time to see this. Here comes the ESRB rating, guys. Ta-da! In 2004, this was considered an E for everyone game. By the standards of 2019, this is considered an N for nobody game. Nobody's allowed to do this anymore. I suspect that the game would probably get flagged at least T for teen now. But I just thought that was pretty interesting, that it's an example of how much tastes have changed and social norms have changed in 15 years. And this is important to recognize because pendulums always swing. And this is why we have to be very careful basing our belief in right and wrong based on what is popular at a given time, because common sense is often neither. We need to be very careful about appeals to authority and you know, appeals to what's the other one? Like basically lots of people believe it, therefore it must be true. I forget the name of that one. The strength in numbers fallacy. I'm sorry, brain fart. But I just thought that was interesting to share because I do believe that the pendulum will swing backward. And I really hope that it swings back towards a happy medium. Like what I'd like to see in gaming is instead of these crazy extremes, that we start, the swings become less crazy until we kind of settle into an area where everybody sort of feels that, yeah, there should be things that we feel are for us, but we also tolerate things that are not for us because there's plenty for everyone. That's what I'd like to see in gaming. Like, quite frankly, yeah, like, that's what I want. I want a happy medium between inclusivity and individuality. And the other thing that's interesting about this original Xbox game is that the original Xbox was the system that pulled gaming into that frat boy culture that it's now defined by. And the reason I continue to bring this up in Lady Bits, in my videos, the reason I continue to bring this up is that too many people and too many games journalists, and shame on them because they should know better, too many games journalists think shit like this is the default state. You notice the game was never opened? 2004, I never played it. Somebody must have bought it for me because they're like, you like pinball? And I'd look at this and go, not that I've ever really had a problem with this. I just obviously never played it. But the fact that the original Xbox had to deliberately push gaming in this direction meant that gaming wasn't originally like that. If you look at the box art for the original Nintendo, if you look at the box art for the Sega Master System, the original Sega Master System, if you look at the original Atari, they were all marketed at families. There was none of this. The Sega Genesis started trying to appeal to older teenagers and high school students, but it was much more enhanced graphics and a cheeky attitude, not like openly, you know, this kind of like what you'd see pinned up on the wall in a garage. Not again, not that there's anything wrong with it. This defined Xbox. This is what they were deliberately trying to pull gaming towards because they could dominate the space. They were the originators of this particular type of gaming, and so they could dominate this original type of gaming. This didn't exist quite this brazenly before the original Xbox. Yes, there was Lara Croft. Yes, there was all this stuff. But that, like, there was a lot more to Lara than this. This, there's nothing but this. This was used to sell pinball. It's very important we know our history. It's very important we know our history so we don't act like ignorant assholes now. And I'm going to wrap it there because, again, hard out. Got to keep it to 10 minutes. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Part 3 coming up. It's going to be a doozy.